Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Give us your name and DOC number, please.
Name's James Shirley, 1956, my DOC number.
50, 49, 56? No, wait a minute.
1956, Ms. Wise.
Thank you, got it. My name is Pearl Wise, sir. To the left of Mr. Roche, to my right is Mr. Freeman. We comprise your panel. And let me explain the process. I'm going to read some information in the record, and then afterwards, we're going to conduct an interview with you, and I'll start the interview. Your case was assigned to me. Then we're going to hear from the warden. And you have some supporters here. I'm going to call them at this time. You have your mother, Miss Angela Shirley, and she will be speaking. And you have your father, Mr. Willie J. Shirley. He will be speaking, and we're going to hear their comments. Then after their comments, you'll make the final comments. You tell us whatever you want us to know before we vote. And you understand the process?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let me read the information to the record. James David Shirley, DOC number is 50 1956. You're listed as a first offender. Your offense is aggravated incest. You were sentenced multiple sentencing dates of March 1506, March 7th of 007. Your total DOC sentence is 20 years. Your parole date is listed as July 11th of 2011. You don't earn good time. And your full term date is November the 14th of 2024. That sounds about right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So how many victims were involved in this offense?
Well, my initial victim was my stepdaughter, but there's more than one victim in any crime.
No, I was referring to these aggravated incests. Were they the same young lady, or were there two different young ladies?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Same young lady. Okay, that's it. Well, that's true. I understand what you were getting at about the victims. I'm glad to hear that you've had your victim awareness. Go ahead and tell me what you learned in victim awareness.
Pretty much that I not only my victim was my victim, but the family of the victim plus my family as well. And plus I put more of a strain on an already wore out system. I mean, the judicial system is already overloaded with dummies doing stupid stuff like I did. There's really no excuse for it. I can't blame it on nobody but myself because I knew better. And I was selfish and didn't really care. At the time, that person is a totally different person than what I am now.
Okay, good. How long, call out for the record how long you've been in jail on this charge?
18 and a half years.
2.5 years, okay. Have you completed all phases of the sex offender treatment program?
Yes, ma'am. I completed all phases, facilitated for a little while in the mental health building during the phase process. Plus, I facilitate some in the dorm for some of the older guys that seem to have a harder time understanding some of the phase and stuff. So I help them and train them and tell them they got to stay with it. They can't just look at it and walk away from it.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. Because I saw somewhere where you were a tutor in 2011 and 2012. You had some certificates, right?
Yes, ma'am. I was a tutor of Votech Automotive. I had finished Votech Automotive here, and then I was a tutor in Votech Automotive.
Okay, good. All right, that's a very useful skill to have. Now, I do want to state for the record that all law enforcement is opposed to your early release. There's nothing you can do about it. I just want to state it for the record. And reports that we have, I don't know if you know this, but the victim is now deceased. Were you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am. The last time I seen my mother, my biological mother, she informed me that my victim had been murdered. and then she later passed away the same year. That the person who murdered my victim is actually at David Way.
Oh, man. So your mother is deceased?
My biological mother, yes.
Okay, okay, right, oh, okay. I'm sorry for your loss. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Right then. Were you aware at the, and there was some discrepancy as to when your relationship with your victim started? You said 14, and there was some places said it was 13 or even 12.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I never did touch her until after the end of March of 2004.
March of 2004.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't know. I can't do the math right now how old you were. So you also have certificates in the carpenter helper as well, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And carpenter helper, you completed automotive in 2017. So what do you do every day?
I'm a cook now. I cook in the kitchen. I cook on A shift. I'm not the best in the world, but I try.
Okay, okay. What happened with your automotive skills? What happened?
My what?
Automotive.
Oh, automotive, they shut Automotive Botech down.
Oh, okay.
It was one of the ones that got caught in the budget cuts. So when that happened, I wound up going to being a cell block orderly and dorm orderly, and then made my way to the kitchen and started doing as a cook.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I do want to say for the record that the victim's father continues to be opposed to your release. There's nothing you can do about that, but I do want to state that with probation parole was successful in reaching out to him. And I'm sorry if he's watching. I'm so sorry for his loss as well. So if you were successful today, where would you live and how would you support yourself?
I'm going to work for my uncle who owns a logging operation, and I'm going to work for him and try to maybe do part-time cook in a restaurant in the town where I'll be going to. They have a small restaurant there, and if I'm not making enough money working, driving log trucks, running equipment, I may try to do my cooking skill there.
But you say your cookers ain't that good.
Well, I mean, I cook pretty good, but when you're cooking for 1,600 people, you get quite a few complaints.
Oh, okay, okay. So you just okay. All right, that's all I have. Thank you for answering my questions. Anybody else got any questions? No. Okay. All right, Warren, what you want us to know?
You covered everything, Ms. Wise. The record pretty much speaks for itself. He's got an excellent conduct record, as you pointed out. He participated in quite a bit of self-help programming. Obviously not for good time because he doesn't earn good time. He's completed all the sex offender programming and got a good employment history at the institution. So he's done well at the institution. Record speaks for itself, Ms. Wise. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, sir. At this time, we can hear from Ms. Angela Shirley. Or Mr. Willie Shirley.
Okay. Yes, can you hear us?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay. She talked first.
Okay.
It's really okay. We just feel like he has served his time and we just want him at home.
I'm so, excuse me, man. We were listening. I'm so sorry. Excuse me.
Okay.
So
We know we done.
I'm his stepmother.
Okay, and you are?
I'm his daddy.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
We know we done wrong. And, you know, he's been in there 18 and a half years. And I want him home. excuse me. I'm 76 years old. I want my son home. I'm sorry.
All right. But thank you, sir. I know this is hard for you all, and we thank y'all for your participation. Family is very important to the process. That's for sure. Thank y'all for being here.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Shirley, anything you want us to know before we vote?
No, he served his time.
I'm sorry, I was speaking to your son. I was speaking to your son.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I don't think he heard me either. Mr.
I
James.
heard, I was, yes, ma'am. There's really not a lot I can say. I mean, I was guilty of sin of what I did. I've tried to put myself in the victim's shoes and could figure out how I would feel and what I would accept for apology or how I would go about feeling forgiving someone. I really haven't been able to figure that out. I have tried to better myself at every turn. I'm nowhere near the same person I was 18 and a half years ago. I turned 52 years old in 5 days, and I would like to better just get home and spend time with my dad and my mom while I'm still able to go home. And I just throw myself at mercy of the parole board.
All right, well said, Mr. Shirley. We have a recommendation for executive session. Can I get a second?
Okay.
Pearl White,
Yes.
Algebra.
Yes.
Yes.
So we have, we'll be in executive session to discuss confidential matters related to this case, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Cockroach. Another disgusting cockroach. You don't deserve to get out a second early. I have the court transcripts that we're gonna go over after this, and it's gonna piss you off. Oh, I hope the board does not let this cockroach out. Not 1 second early. Seeing how jovial he is? My initial victim was my stepdaughter and the family of the victim. You are the family of the victim. It's your stepdaughter. Your underage stepdaughter. Who's now dead. Her murderer is in the same prison with you. Bet you're buddies, huh? You don't think that you derailed her life? Put her on the path of destruction? To the point where she's murdered? There was no remorse shown by that cockroach. I saw nothing. Who would have thought it was his birthday? I don't understand how he only gets 20 years. 20 years for that. Blows my mind.
Which, the panel is back in session and the time is 1:47, 1:47. Mrs. Shirley, for me, this is a very challenging case, very challenging. The nature of the offense, the impact it had on the young lady, and how he just really changed her life. I commend you for all the great things you've done behind bars, and I believe that on your full-time term date, you will be able to live a good full life. For me, my vote is to deny it because of the proximity of your good time date, the law enforcement opposition, and the impact of crime on the victim. But that is just my vote. Mr. Roche?
Mr. Shirley, my vote is the same for the same reason.
Mr. Freeman?
Mine too.
All right, so today, sir, you got 3 votes have been denied. But again, your good time date is your full term day election, November the 14th of 2024. So best wishes to you, sir. But your parole has been denied.
I'll now.
Even the idea that his father breaks down crying, it's like he's getting out in a year and a half. Have some empathy for the victim, your step granddaughter. Let's go check out this court hearing. It will only upset you more. Here's the appeal. The defendant, James Dave Shirley. He pled guilty to aggravated incest and was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment and hard labor without the benefit of probation and parole. He now appeals, assigning a sentence of error and ineffective counsel. Wait what else he says, okay? I would say you won't believe it, but you will, because we've seen it over and over. But wait till he goes. Whoa. So here's the facts. The victim, defendant's 14-year-old daughter, reported to the police that she and the defendant had an ongoing relationship beginning March of 2004. And ending in October of 2004. The relationship consisted of various types of acts, including, and I'll just paint this over, but as you can see, basically every type of act that you can commit. He was over the age of 30 and married to the victim's mother. He was charged with a bill of 4 counts of aggravated incest. He pled guilty to 1 count of aggravated incest pursuant to a plea bargain agreement. And then he was sentenced. And the trial court allowed the family members the opportunity to speak, but they didn't. The trial court stated that it had considered the applicable sentencing provisions and reviewed the pre-sentence investigation report, including the fact that the defendant was a first-time felon. It set forth that the defendant substantial adult criminal record. The trial court further noted that the defendant's social history, including his claim that he was abused by his stepfather at an early age. The trial court extensively discussed the graphic details of the defendant's conduct with the victim, which clearly showed the grave and heinous nature of his offense, the ongoing efforts of the defendant in exploiting the young victim. The court noted that the defendant appeared to show no remorse. And again, here he is today, showing no remorse. I didn't see anything. And to add to it that she's dead. And he showed nothing. It's like you're missing something. And to think that we'll be out in society again, there to harm others. How do you marry someone, have a stepdaughter, 14 years old and do that to her for your sick perversion, for your. But wait, it does get worse. He blamed the victim for intentionally initiating sexual contact during wrestling. Yep, he blamed her. And it gets worse. Now, they found that they were sufficient leniency through the plea bargain, finding under risk that the defendant could commit another crime during a period of suspended sentence or probation. Well, what about another crime when he gets out? You don't think there's risk there too? A lesser sentence would depreciate the. Well, I think your 20-year sentence depreciated the seriousness of this offense as well. How is it you're doing this to a child? It's incest that he's actually pleading guilty to. As far as the eyes of the law is concerned, it's his own child. That's how they're categorizing it. 20 years sentence is sufficient so you can avoid a trial? Normally I'd be yelling. I think I'm just so burnt out. It gets worse. In his appeal, you're going to wait till you see what his appeal is. He emphasizes the lack of substantial criminal record and discusses the details of this. So he says he should get a lesser sentence because they're not actually blood relatives, and that she was above the age of 12, and that the offense was consensual. It was consented sexual conduct. The defendant argued that he is not the worst type of offender to justify the imposed maximum sentence. That's what he puts in an appeal. She was over the age of 12. She wasn't actually my daughter, and she wanted to do it. She wanted it. That's his mindset. He actually put that into an appeal. Can you imagine? He put in a legal document that he shouldn't get a 20-year sentence because she was above the age of 12, not actually a blood relative, and she wanted it. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. You know, it is strange to me, and I'll never get sick of saying it, but we're tired of saying it. But that 20 years is in Louisiana a pretty decent sentence, actually. You see people get 5 years suspended. You see people get 7-year sentences. To get 20 and actually serve all 20, yeah, it's pretty impressive. But why not throw the whole book at him? They didn't want to put the daughter through it. Okay. We can't say anything against that. But where's the DA showing up? You know, I know they're thinking, what's the point? But maybe just to represent the victim who is now deceased, whose life was derailed and led to her death. And I don't think it's a coincidence. You want to say, oh, it's not. No, I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, how many incest cases do you have that you don't look at it on your sheet and say, you know what, maybe I should oppose this just so one more child can be saved, just for the year and change that he'll be locked up longer than he is now. Is that not enough for you to show up? Is it not enough to make sure that a child will not be hurt by this cockroach for another year? It's such a travesty. It's such a tragedy. He comes into this girl's life, can be a father figure, can maybe do something to help. And he does that. And then she goes off, ends up getting murdered at this young age. And then no one's there to even speak for her. No one's there to even just say something on behalf of her. Her father leaves a note, makes us, I'm not going to blame him for anything. Who knows what he's going through? There was another thing that Richard found, which was that this case was brought in as a legal reference. So there was someone else who basically did the same thing to his stepdaughter, but impregnated her. The defendant had intercourse with his 14-year-old stepdaughter. This is a different person, okay? But they bring up in his appeal Mr. Shirley as a reference. So this cockroach had intercourse with a 14-year-old stepdaughter. As a result, she became pregnant and had a child. He appealed and said, oh, the sentence is too harsh. And they should reconsider the sentence because he showed remorse by voluntarily pleading guilty to save the victim anguish of testifying in court. Such a prince. What a prince. And then they brought up where is it? It's yeah, here it is. It's interesting. They spell it Shirley, E-Y. Oh, it's also spelled okay. I spelled it wrong in my notes. Here, additionally, as a general rule, maximum sentences are appropriate in cases involving the most serious violations of offense, the worst type. The defendant was convicted of aggravated incest and received the maximum sentence for 20 years. On appeal, the court found that the trial did not abuse its board. The scope, long victim, and defendant's personal criminal history. The facts of this instant case shows that the defendant, as the worst type of offender, the defendant had intercourse with his 14-year-old stepdaughter numerous times, which ultimately resulted in a pregnancy. As a result, the defendant's actions and the victim required psychiatric treatment. No kidding. Lastly, the defendant was charged with 2 counts. Okay. They bring up basically the similar case, except it's even worse here because he impregnated her. And it's so important for judges to even take this into account. I didn't even think of it, but you're setting precedents. You had a case that took place in 2004, And then not so many years later, you have another case of nearly the same thing, and they view your ruling. You know, maybe if the judge would have given a 30 or 40-year sentence, this judge would have felt obliged to do the same. You know, judges should be held accountable for everything that they do. They really need to be. And I get it. I get it. I get it. You can't, you know, they don't want to put the victim through a trial. And I keep saying this. I'm going to put up on my backup channel, my other channel, a case where they do go to trial. And you do see how scary those trials are. You can have mistrials so easily with a witness saying the wrong thing on the stand in front of the jury. The victim does have to get up there and speak. The family members are brought up there to be made to look bad for not believing the victim, for allowing it to happen. It is traumatizing. But 20 years, it just doesn't seem sufficient. I don't know the answer though. Anyways, I'm done with that.